thank you for having me to talk today about all things STEM and STEM pathways and careers. I thought, first of all, I would give yourselves a brief introduction to myself so you know who you're talking with. My name's Hannah. I am a student recruitment project officer here at Loughborough University. I studied at Loughborough and I now work here. So just to give you a really brief overview of myself. So before university, I grew up in North Wales. I'm a 2000 baby, so hitting my age mid-20s. In terms of what I did before university, I studied English literature, biology, and design and technology. And I really discovered that I had a really good interest in sort of the design industry, which led me to looking at lots of different universities and ultimately fell in love with Loughborough and decided to study industrial design and technology here. I took up lots of extracurricular opportunities whilst I was also at university. I learnt and played rugby whilst I was here, so I got very involved with the sports. I took a placement year during my studies, which allowed me to work in Amsterdam for a year with an interior design company. And I also volunteered with marketing and media whilst I was a student, which led me nicely into what I did after university. So I graduated with a 2-1 in the summer of 2022, and I started an internship here at Loughborough University in the team that I currently work with. I've worked my way up and I've become a student recruitment officer, and I'm now a student recruitment project officer, which isn't that different, but little things. So that includes me essentially travelling around the country to speak to lots of students. Like yourselves, you might have seen me at one of your careers fairs before, you might have seen one of my colleagues, and we basically go around the UK talking about lots of different things to give you guys as much information, advice and guidance to help you make the best informed decision for your future choices as well. So on that note, today we're going to be looking at STEM pathways and careers, but more importantly for you guys, we're going to be looking at like what that educational journey might look like and how you could potentially get into STEM subjects and careers. I'm trying to go through as much as possible, as you mentioned, but it might be that we can't answer every single question that you have, but we'll get to it at the end. I'm going to try and be quite thorough, but if you do have any questions, as you said, put them into the chat and we'll answer them at the end as well. So, first of all, I think the first thing we need to establish is what is STEM. So when we're starting at the beginning, it might be that you are thinking about your application, whether that's to university, whether that's to a degree apprenticeship, whether that's to an apprenticeship. You might be thinking about applying, or you might be thinking about writing a personal statement or an application letter. It's important to think what it is you're wanting to do and what is STEM. If you think about just cars and machines and all those sort of things, then you might be wrong or you might be right, and it won't necessarily help you build your application. So I have loads of really random photos on the board. Do you think any of these don't involve STEM? Do you think all of them do? STEM is a really broad subject which helps us explore, grow, stay healthy, travel, learn, keeps us safe, keeps us entertained. STEM is everywhere in our world, so all of these photos involve some element of STEM in them, and we'll go through that a little bit more. So if we take it right back to actually what it means, STEM is essentially an acronym for science, technology, engineering and maths. The courses that you're exploring come under the STEM umbrella. They can include sort of these very brief subjects I've got. So for example, science might include biology, chemistry, physics, astrophysics, earth and environmental sciences. Technology is very much more the computer science, information technology and electronics. Sometimes design can fall into that. Just saying that as a previous design student. You've then also got all of our engineering subjects, and then also sort of maths, which can include pure maths, but then also more applied maths such as financial maths, for example. This is a really brief introduction to what STEM is. There's lots of different subjects that also fit into those areas, and there might be different institutes or areas that think different subjects fit into different boxes. So it's quite a broad umbrella term that covers lots of different things. And there are thousands of different STEM courses, apprenticeships, careers available at hundreds of different institutes and companies across the UK and internationally. As I mentioned, on the board, you can see a whole host of different STEM degrees, from single subjects that you might be familiar with, as we mentioned, the sort of chemistry, astronomy, financial maths, There might be some joint honours that you might not have heard of before. So software engineering, aerospace engineering, you might not have had an opportunity to study, you might not have had an opportunity to be familiar with. And then there also could be some really niche degrees or opportunities, such as operational yacht science. I can see on the board there. There are plenty of courses to choose from, and it's up to you to choose the right course that's for you, but also do that research to help you build that foundation of what that might look like for you. So, as we're at the sort of beginning of talking about those pathways and what STEM is, and we have an understanding of what STEM is, it's important to understand where you guys are currently at and where you potentially need to go on to as well. So currently you guys are studying your Key Stage 5, so whether that is you're currently studying A levels, B Techs, T levels, you're making the foundations to take on that higher education or that 18 plus pathway. And that could include higher education, further education, apprenticeships, employment with training, or just going into employment, for example. So just going to focus a little bit on the Key Stage 5, done Key Stage 4. Before we talk into the options, it's really important that you have the right entry requirements and subjects to progress into STEM at Key Stage 5. This could include you having either A levels or B Techs or T levels or even that apprenticeship. And subjects might include specific things such as maths or science or design studies. It's really important that you have a look at what the next steps you maybe want to do and ensure that you are currently studying the right things to do those next steps. It might also be really important that you achieve a certain grade or a qualification. So as I said, really important when you're looking at those next steps to make sure you're keeping all your options open and you're choosing a route that is eligible for you. So you might be thinking, where on earth do I begin? What do I do? What do I look for? There are lots of different subjects, different ways to get into STEM subjects. And as it's such a broad subject area, this could include you doing sort of work experience to understand and become familiar with the environment. It could be you doing an apprenticeship, so going into that working environment. It could be you doing a degree apprenticeship. The other option is doing a degree at university, or potentially transferring your career at a later date into STEM subjects as well. The two most common routes into STEM subjects that you might be considering is an apprenticeship or degrees, and that sort of middle area of that degree apprenticeship. Now, there's two different varieties of what is the difference between an apprenticeship and a degree. Probably one of the biggest questions we always get asked, and you might be thinking is, well, which do I choose? Do I choose an apprenticeship? And do I choose a degree? That is a very personal question, and it's going to be something that is entirely up to you. And I will say it 1,000 times throughout this presentation, but doing your research is really, really important to ensure you are making the right decision for you. Now, there's a key few differences between them, and you can see them on the board. One thing to note with apprenticeships is that there are some really, really good apprenticeships out there, but they are not all as good as each other. The ones that are really good are very highly competitive. University courses usually have a little bit more accessibility, and there is lots of information online there's lots of information on how to help you see if a course is good or not. We'll talk a little bit about accreditation later, but on the board you can see that apprenticeships, you have a little bit more of a narrower learning focus. So if you know exactly what you want to do and which area you want to go into, that's brilliant for apprenticeships. If you're maybe not quite so sure and you want to go into a bit more of a general area, university degrees are great. Apprenticeships have a lot more skill-based learning, whereas university degrees are a lot more knowledge-based. There's benefits of being employed straight away, and you earn a wage straight away, and there's no tuition costs, so you don't end up coming out with that tuition fee. But on the flip side of that, then you do have the benefits of sort of, you potentially start with a higher salary when you have a university degree. There's opportunities to network and socialise with new people. You also get to have the university experience, as lots of people do tend to consider that. With apprenticeships, there's often not accommodation facilitated with that, so you tend to stay at home, whereas with university, you can tend to move away from home, but obviously you can commute to university as well. The areas in pink, so you've got the sort of higher starting salaries, the networking and the university experiences, are all areas where Loughborough stand out. So we have one of the biggest engineering schools and lots of STEM facilities across our campus, and it provides an opportunity and a great student experience across the campus as well. So again, here's just another quick infographic to compare the differences between apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, and bachelor's and master's degrees as well. There's lots of information on there, and you're going to have this recording anyway. So I'd encourage you guys to look more into those higher apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships. As at Loughborough University, we don't currently offer any degree apprenticeships or apprenticeships. That would be a place where potentially you would need to go and do a little bit more research to understand the difference. But on general, here are the differences that you can see across them as well. So some of them are summarised in what I said on the previous slide, and some are maybe a little bit different as well. So going forward, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the pathways and the routes in through a degree process and going through higher education. I just wanted to highlight the apprenticeship and the degree apprenticeship route, as that is something that you probably should research and something that you need to make your informed decision about, if that's the right decision for you as well. So just going on from that in terms of degrees and masters and bachelors and all those sorts of things, when you're looking at university degrees, there's sort of two different accreditations you can look at. When you're looking at STEM subjects, you can get a bachelor's in engineering, a bachelor's in science. Those are probably most of the bachelor's in chemistry potentially. And that is your undergraduate level. So that is the first thing you would do after university. It would be 3 or 4 years of study with an industry year. You would then also potentially have the opportunity after that to go into a master's, which would be then again same in the master's in engineering, master's in science, and master's in chemistry. If you do it integrated, it's 4 years of studies or 5 years with a placement year. You can do the 3 years of your bachelor's and then just add 1 year on to do your master's in general. In general, you have a really increased depth of knowledge on technical topics studied at a more advanced level if you do the master's. The individual final year project for the Masters of Engineering is called the Professional Development Project, which is a larger and more intensive than the bachelor's. And there's lots of different opportunities to get involved with those as well. All these extra skills that you build if you do a master's can become very attractive for an employer as well. Masters can also offer more direct routes into careers. And if you're looking at specifically engineering, you can achieve chartered status from that as well. Whilst a BEng can give you a lot of broad information and could potentially require you doing further study after as well. Another thing to briefly mention is degree accreditation. So this is essentially an external badge when an external organisation or company says, yes, it's assurance to parents, students, employers, and people from all over the world that we are teaching to a high standard, and that the high standards that are set by that professional area as well, and they're adhered to. So here are just some of the institutes that accredit. So you've got some there for engineering, you've got some there for chemistry and mechanical engineering, for example, as well. So moving on to STEM specifically at Loughborough. So we saw this infographic earlier with the particular areas that we have in terms of the STEM subjects, and these are more towards the STEM degrees that you can take at Loughborough, concentrating on subject areas that are taught within the School of Science, within the schools of engineering, and across the university world as well. As we said, you're now probably familiar with the acronym. So we're going to go through a flavour of sort of where our graduates have gone, and we're going to see some real examples of roles and employers that our graduates have told us. And this is from the latest graduate outcome survey, which I believe was in 2021-22. We're not going to be able to cover every single job that every student has gone to from those graduate areas, and we might not even be able to cover all of the exact courses that we have here at Loughborough. So we'll be picking out a few areas above and zooming in to give you a flavour of the breadth of careers opportunities available to you if you study some STEM subjects. So first of all, we'll look at our science-related job roles. So you have our areas in chemistry, physics, and the natural sciences as well. So first of all, here's some of our actual graduate destinations from Loughborough's chemistry students. And this is taken from the 2 most recent graduate surveys. You can have a little look here and see some of the companies that are involved. So you've got places like Google, NHS, 3M, GSK. So some of these might be really familiar household names that you see or come across every single day. And you can see some of the variety there. So you've got a full stack developer, an analytical chemist, science teacher, so going into that education route, cosmetic chemist, so if you're interested in sort of how we produce day-to-day cosmetics, recruitment consultants, microbiology lab technician, and product development chemist. So you can see a whole host of different routes there that have come from chemistry. Here are some of the physics graduate roles. So what's really interesting is the range of roles that physics grads have gone into, and some of them you might not expect. There's a huge range of roles from robotic engineer to energy specialists, HR assistants to game developers, data analysts to laser scientists, even things like financial planners, police officers, and software developers. Something that I haven't mentioned previously as well is also opportunities to do further study, so to go into research in doing a PhD or potentially researchers in a university as well. Physicists are often really highly regarded by employers for their problem solving capabilities and their mathematical skills, and can enter a wide range of sectors, as you can see on the board as well. It might be interesting to see financial law or financial planners on there. And it's sort of an interconnected problems found in law and financials that require practical mathematical problem solving that physicists can use to understand the world, and even using the same equations as physicists as well. So that's quite interesting to see the breadth. So you sometimes think, oh, I'm going into a physics degree, I'm going to be doing physics. Not necessarily. You have a huge breadth of different roles that are available for you as well. Next is thinking about sort of like a bit of technology and maths related jobs. So related to sort of computer science, and then also some roles related to maths as well. The UK is facing significant shortages in the world of workers with tech skills, and there's never been a better time to dive right into the computer science degrees as well. So due to its like really highly adaptable and analytical nature, there's a number of broad-ranging jobs that you can get with a computer science degree. The career paths that you are able to apply for are hugely varied. So you might end up working with anything from healthcare to tourism, finance to government, and many, many more areas as well. It might be that you do a lot of the same core work, but in lots of different jobs or lots of different industries as well. So again, here are some of the employers that Loughborough computer science graduates have gone to work for, along with some of the sector roles that have been declared in recent graduate outcomes. So again, you can see some of the biggest sort of technological companies such as like IBM, Sky, Microsoft, and then even things such as government within the civil service or broadcasting, all those, and then even towards sort of consulting areas. Next, you're looking at a mathematics degree, and I think it's one of the questions we get often asked is, people understand maths because they've done A-level or they've done GCSE, but what do you actually do with a mathematics degree? It does not mean that you will have to become a professional mathematician. It doesn't mean you have to go into teaching. It doesn't mean you have to go into lecturing or research. The knowledge and skills you develop at university can help you find success in, again, a wide range of fields. Many math graduates go into quite high earning roles and really successful careers in computing, accounting, engineering, science, banking, business. Maths is a STEM subject, which employers consider to be highly desirable subjects areas when looking for employees. And again, here's some of the sort of typical companies. Again, you can see a huge variety from sort of some large consultancy web sites to sort of Sky, Pepsi & Co, BMW, and a huge range of different ones from sort of data analysis. Majority of companies nowadays you'll find will have data analysts and things like that and senior risk analysts you can see in there. To more specific things like sports analysts, here at Loughborough we have a dual honours degree which is sports and maths, so you can see how that would fit really nicely into a sports analysis role, for example. And then with all of these there is that area of going into a teaching role within it as well. So many of your current teachers might have taken those routes. I always recommend, especially year 12 and 13 students, have a chat with your teachers, see what their routes was, see if they've had any previous jobs. Some people sometimes don't go straight into teaching, they have experience in industry. So have those conversations with your teachers as well. You might be interested to hear what you find out. Next is engineering, and where an engineering degree can take you. As you can see on the slide, there is a huge variety, as we're getting a bit of a theme of variety of what you can go into with engineering related jobs. We're going to go through some specific engineering roles and where they've gone to. Engineering is one of the largest departments here at Loughborough. We have a real root and really, really good industry links with our engineering teams. So first of all, chemical engineering. So chemical engineers use chemistry, a bit of physics, a bit of mathematics, and a bit of economics to efficiently use, produce, transform, and transport chemicals, materials, and energy chemistry, chemical engineering. They work with a lot of like groundbreaking technologies, and they enhance the quality of people's lives in areas such as like environmental protection, the management of resources, and controlling health and safety, for example. You can see again here some chemical engineering employers and roles. You can see some have gone into the process of engineering, some others have gone into IT and business roles. Your degree does not have to limit the field that you go into. Your skills and interests can take you into alternative directions as well. So again, lots of the core skills that you gain from and skills and knowledge that you gain from your degree can take you into a whole host of different degree disciplines as well. Next, probably one of our more popular courses, or two popular courses at Loughborough, are aeronautical and automotive engineering graduate jobs. I do apologise, my tongue's getting a bit tied there. The automotive industry is a really fast-paced, fast-changing with a focus on digital engineering, electrical power, self-driving cars powered by artificial intelligence, racing, and likewise with aviation, we see lots of challenges like moving towards environmentally friendly power, expanding self-driving for unmanned aircraft, space travel, etc. So here are just some of our auto engineering Loughborough graduate roles that they've gone into over the past roles, automotive and aero, sorry. So you can see again some huge names within the auto and aero, sort of Airbus, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Caterpillar, again some of the racing companies, so you've sort of got Red Bull Racing, McLaren, all those sorts of ones as well. And again, in a huge host of different roles. So you've got Formula One aerodynamics. I think a lot of students who are interested more in the automotive really enjoy the idea of working within the Formula One industries. There's also routes within the aero and auto going into things like the Royal Air Force, and then quality assurance engineers, and a huge range of roles and jobs within that industry. Got a couple more of these slides left, don't worry, we won't be going on for ages. We've then got material engineering graduate jobs and employers. So material engineers work with metals, ceramics, plastics to create new materials. Material engineers develop, process and test materials used to create a whole host of different products, from computer chips and aircraft wings to golf clubs, biomedical devices. If you think of it, you can name it. Everything that we interact with, so from that first slide, is made out of some form of material, and that's where material engineers come in really, really useful. Studying materials can lead you to having quite an international career with lots of different options. In the race to make things stronger, cheaper, lighter, more functional and more sustainable, the sort of key manipulation of materials and their properties is really, really key in that process. So every company in the world is interested in improving these things. So again, you can expect to see lots of different companies in there as well. Mechanical design engineer, marine engineer, officer, research technician, polymer applications engineer, and then also again those PhDs, so those further studies and research in different materials that are available as well, and AI. Last two to go through, so mechanical engineering. They design and build solutions to a range of problems, improving efficiency across a wide range of industries. It's quite a broad subject, mechanical engineering, so by studying it, you can look for really good job prospects and a variety of work as well. Again, you've got things such as like a data architect, vehicle test engineer, project managers, cloud engineers, medical graduate engineer. So, and again, a huge range of different companies, from sort of the automotive industry to companies like AstraZeneca, which do a bit more bio stuff, to large building, JCB, P&G and Rolls-Royce, for example. Electrical and electronic graduates work at the forefront of practical technology, so improving the devices and the systems that we use every day. This is more from solar energies systems to mobile phones. they innovate to meet society's communication, tech, and energy needs as well. So again, you'll notice a couple of these sort of key job roles crop up in multiple. So you're looking at sort of like data engineer, design engineer, and they're quite broad career prospects, but they'll be more specific for the roles that you've gone through and the routes that you've gone through as well. And again, you've got places like the civil services, BT, Rolls-Royce, etc. And last but not least, you've got civil and building engineering, or just general thing. Civil engineering, a discipline that deals with the design, construction, and maintenance of natural and physically built environments. So the role of a civil engineer is to design and implement structures that are used every single day in life, such as bridges to roads to how water supply systems work. They're responsible for making sure that these structures are created to a high standard and are safe for members of the public and just generally everyone. Civil engineers are really, really tangible. So they make a really big difference to people's lives all across the world. And again, you can see some people go into a direct job of becoming a civil engineer. They might become a quantity surveyor, a design coordinator, an assistant construction manager, or a whole host of architectural assistant as well, for example. So what does the future look like? So before we delve, so we've just delved into some of the subject information. So let's go into like what that future looks like and where a degree will fit that. So there is good news if you choose to come to university. So recent research from the UK shows that by 2035, so about 11 years from now, 88% of new jobs will be aimed at graduate level. So you'll need some form of degree to go from there. And there's also a need for 11 million new graduates by that time as well. There is also obviously the rise of AI, as you can imagine. So there's lots and lots of roles that are going to be really, really impacted by AI. And as it says here, generative AI probably won't take your job, but it will change how you work as well. So for example, while many tasks within customer service can be automated, there will be scenarios that require that human touch, such as like really complex issues, sensitive topics, or situations requiring like empathy and judgment. And that will always be better handled by humans. Most likely, roles such as customer services might evolve with a smaller group of humans working alongside AI tools. In this scenario, humans will oversee AI operations and handle more complex interactions. So, especially with STEM, it's very, very likely that in the future you'll be integrating a lot of your work with AI as well. So it's always interesting to keep that in mind. In 2024, the UK government published the UK Science and Technology Framework. This outlined the actions needed to make the UK the most innovative country in the UK, or to make it STEM creating opportunities for graduates with STEM. And that was really seen as a core part of that vision. So some of the fastest growing job sectors in STEM are STEM related. For example, that can include sort of artificial intelligence, software development and data analysis. So it's really, really key, and STEM fields are really core to that economical growth, and it's somewhere where a lot of money is going into as well. So industries such as like information technology, biotechnology, engineering are contributing significantly to the country's economical growth as well. And that means STEM graduates are also really, really important to help drive that as well. So some of you might be thinking that you're not quite 100% sure if STEM is exactly what you want to do, if you're choosing the right subject and you're making this decision now and you're not sure where to go with it. And I think that's why this slide is particularly important. So this is the top 10 skills that our employers were seeking in 2023. Now, it might have updated a little bit since then, but in general, you can see there's a lot there. You've got sort of analytical thinking, curiosity and lifelong learning, quality control, empathy and active listening. And this is what employers are looking for skills and workforce strategies for the future. We are currently in sort of the next generation of industrial revolutions, and that has brought us sort of really, really advanced technology within robotics and autonomous transport, artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced materials, biotechnologies, and genomics. So all things that are very heavily impacted by STEM subjects. These will complete developing and these will continue development and will transform the way we live, the way we live and work as well. As I mentioned before, some jobs may disappear, others jobs will grow into what we're looking at as well. So by 2027, it's predicted that quality control and attention to detail will have lost their place in the top 10 of skills, and that will be replaced by AI and big data, and then also things such as design and user experience skills. So great news if you're thinking about studying or looking at going into the computer science area as well. It's really important to take advantage of all the opportunities you can at school, in your community, and through any interest that you have to develop those skills. You can find Loughborough has a whole host of opportunities to build those skills as well, not only through your course, but via placement opportunity and internships, mentoring and volunteering, and that's really important as well. Employers also do really appreciate the transferable skills that STEM graduates have. That can include things like critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. So during your degree, you'll be encouraged to use a lot of these skills to solve really complex problems. And the ability to innovate is really, really highly valued in industries seeking to stay ahead in a competitive global landscape as well. So if there's something that I haven't mentioned today, if I haven't gone through a course that you were maybe thinking about, a really, really good place to look is on universities' websites. It might be that slightly different universities have slightly different courses, so their graduates go to different places. If you're looking at coming to Loughborough University, you can click onto your website. So this is for chemical engineering. If you scroll on down, you can see the overview, what you'll study, the entry requirements, and then finally you'll see your future careers. There's lots of information there about what roles students have gone into at what companies, and then you can also see some information about average starting salaries and things like that that you might find quite interesting. So that's a really quite brief summary of the next steps of sort of choosing if you want to go down the apprenticeship route, the degree route, and what those careers and pathways might look like. So this is the next steps for you guys. So if you are currently in year 12, we'll walk you through. If you're in year 13, you might be a little bit ahead of this pathway, but it's still good to know as well. So this is what we refer to as the UCAS cycle. So the UCAS cycle is a typical cycle that happens every single year if you're interested in applying to university. So if you're interested in applying to university, you apply through UCAS. You have an opportunity to apply to up to 5 degree courses through UCAS. If you're applying for apprenticeships or degree apprenticeships, do note those are slightly different ways to apply to those, and it might be worthwhile, again, doing a little bit of research. That fits really nicely into that first purple bubble you can see on your screen. So that is from January to September of year 12. So coming up into the new year, you might want to start researching courses, attending open days, and planning your applications. There is a whole host of information out there on different degrees, different apprenticeships, different degree apprenticeships, all those sorts of things. It can be also really important to look at universities' sort of widening participation policies as well. Many students may be eligible for things such as like a contextual reduced offer, and that can take form in a whole host of different ways as well. It can be as simple as searching the university you're interested in attending and looking at their widening participation or their contextual admissions. Lots of that information is taken into consideration through your UCAS application. So there's no need for you to either contact the university or even provide that additional information. It's all provided through your UCAS application, which is why it's super important to put as much information as you can in there as well. So in the September of year 13 or the year before you want to apply, that is when UCAS typically opens, and you can start working towards your applications. So the first UCAS deadline is around mid-October, and that is for Oxbridge, so Oxford and Cambridge, medicine, veterinary science, and dentistry. So if you're wanting to apply to any of those areas, you need to aim for that first deadline and make sure you have your personal statement written, make sure you have your course choices ready to go as well. The second deadline is usually towards the end of January, and this is the last point of equal consideration. So that means if you apply before that date, every university has to consider that application equally as well. So worthwhile keeping that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that I guarantee you your school will have a different deadline to the UCAS deadline. That is because your teachers, your tutors have to also add references and check your applications before they get sent off. So make sure you are following your school or your college's deadlines before then as well. Next, you've sort of got student finance support, so applying for that student finance. Again, this is a really good time to take a look at any scholarships or bursaries that are maybe available through the university and how you might apply to them. Some universities may ask you to apply for them. Some universities might offer them to you based on the information given in your UCAS application. Otherwise, if you're thinking, I'm just going to apply for student finance, that opens usually around February, March time and stays open for some time. Really, really important. Do it as quickly as you can or do it as soon as you can. It's then out of the way and done. And then hopefully when you start university in September, it will all be ready to go for you as well. You then have the next couple of steps of sort of all of your offers being made by the universities in May time. You then have to make your firm choice and insurance choice by June. And then fingers crossed, results days come and hopefully you get into your first choice or your insurance choice university. But then there is also confirmation and clearing on that day as well. And then you start university in September, considering all things go well. So when you're preparing to apply, and those who are in year 12, really encourage you now to do your research and narrow down your interests. Try and gain some experience outside of your studies. So we don't expect you to go and work at a chemical engineering plant or anything like that, but gain some understanding of the industries that you want to go into, whether that's paid, voluntary, or even those extracurricular skills that are relevant to your area of interest as well. Try and visit the institutions that you're interested in, whether those are open days or sort of apprenticeship days. I think that's the thing, I'm not sure. And then also start to develop your personal statement. If you're in year 13 and you're sort of still thinking about those areas to go into, it might be worthwhile making sure you've completed your UCAS form and then including your personal statement. Submit your application to your school or college for references to be added. Submit to UCAS by the deadline and by your school's deadline. And then in February, March time this year, it'll be to apply for that student finance. So that's pretty much everything I'm going to go over today. So I wonder if anyone has any questions. I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat.
No problems at all, Hannah. That's been absolutely great. It's been really comprehensive and a whistle-stop tour, not just of the subject areas, but those great long lists maybe, but very interesting lists and variety of career opportunities from those STEM subjects. So thank you very much indeed. I think there was so much information there. I'd like to encourage students who are online to type any questions they may have in the chat, but we do have some pre-prepared questions, Hannah, that students sent in advance. So I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's
I'll go through a few of those. You've actually covered very well some of them, so I'm not going to repeat all. And I would say to any student who put in a pre-asked question that we didn't answer, just either type in the thing or we will answer via the careers careers email. So first of all, we were asked, what is the most competitive STEM pathway currently? And I guess in a way that might be something you can help with just in terms of Loughborough, but it might give a flavour as well of perhaps a more kind of broader picture across university applications.
That's a really good question. And I don't actually think I know the answer off the top of my head. So I don't know all of the admissions data that we have here. I know we always have the popular sort of courses of generally your classic ones that people know a lot about. So you have your mechanical engineering, your aero, your auto, your electrical engineering, for example. And I think that's often because it's what people are familiar with. It's what they know. It's titles and course names that students potentially understand what they are. I think some of our courses where we don't get as many applications are the ones such as the material engineering, because people aren't quite sure what that is, or it's not something they've had a tangible opportunity to study previously. Now, it's really important to think about what are really highly competitive courses, because they might be more competitive to get a place to. But I don't ultimately think that should adjust your interest or the individual's interest in doing those subjects. It might be a really competitive course, it might be a competitive industry, but if it's something that you're really interested in and really passionate to study, then that shouldn't prevent you from doing it. It's really important that you're doing a subject that you enjoy, to potentially get you to a career that you're really going to enjoy, because that's probably the most important element of it. I know that doesn't fully answer the question.
No, I think it's a good starting point, isn't it? I think if you have an enthusiasm already for something, then actually, whether it's competitive or not, it's finding out how you can make that best application stick. The other thing is that visiting, I think, the universities and the open days can consolidate either views on what students might think a course might contain, or it might suggest something else. For instance, I know when I came to Loughborough itself to see the industrial design course, which I think is one of those that you took industrial design, I think, didn't you? And in actual fact, I came to have a look at the BA Design for Industry course. It was actually allied very closely to the ergonomic course, and it was suggested as a joint venture that might be a good course for one of our students. And I think it's actually really understanding that going and visiting, you can see new avenues, which may be allied courses that you wouldn't have thought of before, and certainly if you didn't go to the university, you wouldn't ever know about. So I think what I would say is it's not necessarily about picking a course and changing it because it's competitive, but actually getting stuck in, going to universities across the board, going and looking up and talking to students about what that course content would be, what it looks like, and looking at those graduate jobs that you've listed there and seeing whether those are of interest.
Yeah, and I think that's just one thing to note quickly on what you said there as well, is that courses with exactly the same title at different universities can have completely different content to them. So mechanical engineering here might have a completely different course structure to Nottingham, for example. So it's really important, even when you've narrowed it down to that subject area that you think you're interested in, to look further into the content that's taught at those universities, because it can lead you in a very different one. I think a really good example of that, for example, is physics. So here at Loughborough, there's a module that contains astrophysics, but it's not a huge element of the course. But if you know you really want to go into astrophysics, or it's an element you want to explore further, it might be that there's a better course out there for you, which contains a lot more of that element to it as well. So I think it's that, yes, it's important to look at the competitivity, but following your interest and then making sure the course you're applying to actually follows on in those options as well.
That's actually really helpful and leads me into another question, which we've probably partially answered, but a student who said they were interested in astrophysics and mechanical engineering and couldn't make some decisions. And I think actually that's a really interesting way in which you've described it, is that the courses may actually at different universities contain different percentage elements, different core elements. And so researching the actual modules and options to kind of do these years abroad maybe, or a year in industry, where you would get to use certain proportions of those subjects. It will differ from university to university. So actually making those decisions can be done on research, but I think best got done by visiting the universities and talking to the course leaders and the subject, the students who are actually in perhaps not just their first year, but perhaps third and fourth year students as well.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. We had a query about standing out in an application for a degree apprenticeship, and I appreciate that you're here very much to represent universities perhaps and the careers, but do you have any kind of information that you can impart? I know we have here at college, so I can come on to a bit of that, but do you have anything there, Hannah?
I think particularly for degree apprenticeships, unfortunately, we don't have any degree apprenticeships. I think from my knowledge of the industry, like of the world of work, with applications, it's being really concise to sort of what the application is looking for. So if they have a job specification, if they have a website, ensure you've read them, ensure you're meeting the criteria that they're asking for. And that flips with because I'm under the impression with degree apprenticeships that you apply for the apprenticeships and then the university degree comes with it. So it's really making sure that when you're applying to that apprenticeship, you're really reading what they're asking for and you're answering the questions that they're looking for as well.
That's great. And actually, you're absolutely right. From the point of view of looking for an apprenticeship, if there are any year 13s on, there are some superb apprenticeships just starting to be advertised, particularly in the STEM area. We saw Collins Aerospace just online, and a number of those others are now being advertised, and would encourage any student in year 13 who's looking at STEM to start really doing that research now, because those are opening up opportunities, and they are, as you say, looking for more skills. They're looking for more application of your knowledge, rather than just that academic study. So it is being work ready and skills conscious, rather than necessarily the subject that you want to go on to study, because, as you say, the apprenticeship comes really first, and then the subject study, and the degree, or whichever level it is, the qualification, professional qualification, comes with it. So what I would encourage any students, whether you're in year 12 or in year 13, who are thinking of applying to apprenticeships, is not just to join the pathway, but also the alternatives to university pathway that we have, which takes you through this process. And you can book a one-to-one with myself or Faye as well, if you want to talk through how that particularly applies to you.
Absolutely.
I would say that Unifrog, which is a platform we use here as well, can be a really good starting point for year 12 students who know that they're interested in STEM because of the subjects they've chosen and their strengths. It can be utilised via the quizzes that you can take about skills and what kind of employment you might be suitable to. And there are filters on there which can actually take you through the sciences, the technologies, and filter those sort of possible careers or subject areas, using those tools. So I'd suggest that Unifrog is a really good place to start for any students who know they want to go into STEM, but are struggling to know kind of how to focus and go and even look at universities. That's a good starting point. Also, let's just have a look. We had some questions about sort of neuroscience courses and cytology courses. So some study of cells and some neuroscience courses. And how would a student who's looking at those areas particularly start their quest, Hannah?
Great question. I think that's a really good example of one of those courses where you're not going to be able to get direct work experience leading into it. And I think, especially for a lot of STEM students, that can be quite like a difficult tangential thing of sort of being like, how on earth do I find any sort of relevant work experience in that sort of field? And I think that goes to looking at those course websites. So if you're wanting to do a neuroscience, look at the universities that offer that and pick out the key areas that they're sort of searching for, whether that's particular modules or particular skills, and sort of developing off that. So it might be that part of it is clinical skills. So you have to be familiar in a medical clinical setting. You could potentially go and volunteer or work at your local pharmacy for something like that. And then you're building those skills, even though they're not directly tangential to your future degree. They show that you're building those skills and doing the right sort of steps to get you there as well. Sounds like a really interesting subject.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. But I also thought that you offer at Loughborough, as many of the universities do, taster days, taster sessions for subjects. And I would encourage students. I know that you've got one on the 3rd of April for STEM, and the applications are opening soon. That's a 9 till 4 p.m. On campus. So although it will take you out of college, I would encourage students who are interested interested in STEM to go along and see one of the open days at Loughborough, but maybe attend the taster session. I'm fairly certain that we would be able to sanction a day off college in order to do that, because it's related to your prospective careers and your university applications. But actually looking at the universities that you're interested in and thinking about those taster day sessions online as well as in person, I think a really good way to start sorting out which courses are particularly suitable.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot, because often it's so hard to go and visit these universities, or you find the taster session a bit too late and you've missed it. So obviously, first instance, try and get to the university to have those conversations, to attend those taster sessions, either online or in person, but also have a look at all the depth of resources, whether there's taster sessions that have been recorded and are live on YouTube or something like that as well. There's plenty of resources out there as well. And even year 12, like we don't particularly have any year 12 summer residentials, but lots of universities will sort of have more specific summer residentials as well.
That's great. And I think I'd encourage students to go along to Loughborough and the other open days as they start to unfold towards the end of the spring and early summer term, but to do that research in advance and attend those open days. The taster sessions, if you think the one for the STEM is on the 3rd of April and the applications are opening soon, they will be competitive to get on as well. So actually it really is worth looking around and finding those. So Hannah, we haven't had any further questions, but Faye has been really busy. Thank you, Faye, putting those links all in the chat. And what I would encourage students, if you have any further questions for Hannah or for ourselves here at college, to email the careers@keds.ac.uk. Thank you, Faye, for putting that in the chat. And we will send this recording around to our students who've been online, to the students who weren't able to attend at the beginning, and also to our class subject teachers as well. So we hope that this will be widely used. It's been absolutely brilliant, Hannah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just to add on in terms of contact information, on each of those degree pages as well, if you go to the bottom, it has the schools and the academic schools contact details as well. So if you want to pick their brain about a particular module, how much percentage of the course it contains, a particular bit of information that you want to know about, do utilise them. They are there to be used. So don't have to wait for an open day to ask those sorts of questions as well.
That's really, really helpful. We look forward to working with you again. And thank you very much indeed for coming on, Hannah. And thank you to students and parents who've been online this evening, and hope you've got a lot out of that. All the very best, Hannah. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. Have a lovely evening.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.